Hi guys, so this is the learning objectives for today, and today we're going to talk about the key features and functions of different types of blood vessels, and we'll also be comparing and contrasting them. First, let's talk about arteries. The key things that you need to know about arteries is that it carries blood away from the heart. And one easy way to remember this is that both the word arteries and away starts with the letter A. So maybe you guys could try remembering it that way. Also, it has a thick inner layer and a tough outer layer to withstand the high pressure so that it won't get damaged. And the thicker walls means that it also has a thinner lumen, which is the space inside. And it pumps blood by stretching and contracting thick muscle fibers, which causes pulse. And by how the color of the artery is red, it tells us that it carries oxygenated blood. However, there's an exception, which is the pulmonary artery, and that is the only artery that takes deoxygenated blood away from the heart. And while the arteries are represented as red, veins are usually represented as blue, which means that it carries deoxygenated blood. Now, let's move on to veins. Veins, unlike arteries, pumps blood back to the heart from the rest of the body. And they also have valves, which stops the blood from flowing backwards. And they need this because veins pump blood against the gravity, because let's say there's some deoxygenated blood around your toes that needs to be pumped back to the heart. But obviously, we're going to be standing like this. So our toes is going to be here, while our heart is going to be here. So it needs to work against the gravity. And these valves close when the blood is going away from the heart, which ensures that the blood flow is going the right direction, which is to the heart. Veins also have a tough outer layer, but really thin middle layer. And they also have fragile walls, which means that they can be damaged easily. And they're more likely to get diseases and viruses. Let's talk about the comparisons between arteries and veins. First of all, veins do not have to contract and stretch like arteries, because by the time blood has passed through the capillaries and have entered the veins, the pressure that has initially been exerted upon it by the heart contractions has already diminished. Therefore, it works in a low pressure condition and it has a fairly smooth flow, so it doesn't need to contract or stretch. And therefore, it also do not have to control blood flow. Veins also do not have a pulse because they don't contract or stretch, and arteries do not have valves, which we can see in these diagrams. These are valves, and it's only present in veins. And this is because fluids flow from a higher to lower pressure, and arteries pump blood from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure, because they work in a condition with high pressure and they pump the blood to the rest of the body, which has lower pressure. Therefore, it works along the pressure gradient. So even though it's hard to pump blood in a high pressure condition, it's still working with the pressure gradient. Therefore, they don't need to have valves to stop the blood from flowing backwards. Whereas for veins, they're working against the pressure gradient, as they have to pump blood from a region of low pressure, which is from the rest of the body, to a region with high pressure, which is the heart. So it needs to have valves in order to make sure that the blood is flowing in the right direction. And they're basically like doors, because they open to let the blood flow to the heart, but they close to stop the blood flowing away from the heart. Now, let's talk about capillaries. But before that, we'll annotate the diagram first. By the information given here, we can see that this is the artery and this is the vein, as the arrow here is red and the arrow here is blue, and it says that the blood is flowing from the heart, meaning that this blood vessel is carrying blood away from the heart. Whereas for this one, the blood vessel is carrying blood to the heart, and it's also carrying deoxygenated blood, whereas this is carrying oxygenated blood. Let's color this in. This part would be red, and this part would be blue. Artery, and this is the vein. Then the question is, What is this? This is a capillary bed, which is just a network of capillaries. Capillaries are very small blood vessels, as you can see. These are very thick, whereas the capillaries are really thin. And we usually describe it as 1 cell thin. And this enables substances to go through the walls of capillaries very easily. And the reason why capillaries are 1 cell thin is to allow diffusion through capillaries and gas exchange. Our respiring tissues need oxygen to produce ATP, which is energy, which we use on a daily basis. Basically, the oxygen that has been inhaled by the lungs diffuses through the thin walls of a capillary, and then it gets to the respiring tissues, which is in need of oxygen. And after respiration has taken place, carbon dioxide would be produced as a waste product, and these also diffuses through the thin walls of capillaries to the lungs so that it could be exhaled. And as you can see, while the artery is completely red and the vein is completely blue, which means that it carries both deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. And this is the blood vessel that also connects the arteries and the veins. And we'll talk more about the functions of capillaries in our next video, which is on gas exchange, breathing, and respiration. So make sure to stay in tune for that. Anyways, this is the end of our video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll upload this on our Google Drive so that you guys could use it to practice annotating.